Petr Ludwig, the author of The End of Procrastination, How to Stop Postponing and Live a Fulfilled Life. Welcome indeed to the podcast. Procrastination, it's something that we are all familiar with. Can we define it, first of all? What exactly is procrastination? Then why do we so often fall a victim to it?
Hi, and thank you for having me. And procrastination is a key problem of 21st century because we are overwhelmed by so many emails, so many priorities. And at the end of the day, we are unable to focus on what is important. So procrastination is a situation that we are postponing our tasks. And at the end, like we are unable to start with projects that we truly want to do. And according to science, procrastination is always connected with negative feelings. So if you don't have any regrets, it's not procrastination, it's pure laziness. So procrastination is always connected with the feel of regret, feel of failure. And that's the problem, because the more you procrastinate, because you have much more negative feelings, and those negative feelings even increase the chance that you will postpone even more. So this is the diagnosis of 21st century. So we have social media, we have what is called cheap dopamine all around us. And then if we waste our dopamine on social media, we miss the dopamine for what is truly important. So this is the problem, and then we can discuss the solution.
Well, it's interesting you say there that procrastination well, it's something, as I said, we all experience. But for me, when I think of procrastination, I think of suffering, because I know I should be doing something, but I keep putting it off, and we will come to a solution. The funny thing is, the energy and the time that I and other people spend on ingenious methods to divert us away from what we should be doing are over and above what it would take to actually do the thing we should be doing in the first place.
Right, yeah. And sometimes, like, we truly want to do those things, yeah? I truly want to start running. I truly want to, I don't know, exercise more. I truly want to start a new project at work, or I'm an entrepreneur and I want to do what is important for my business. But the problem is that where there's a moment of the decision, we often do things that are easier and much more pleasant. So it's easier to check your Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever than to start a complex project. And the more the project is complex and the more difficult it is to start, because if the project is very complex, you are a little bit lost at the beginning. So you have a fear, you have a sense of that you are lost in the complexity. And then you have a simple solution, yeah, to go and to check your, I don't know, email or social media accounts. So the problem is that we are unable to like experience those negative emotions and being fine with that. And I think that sometimes if you experience few minutes of being completely alone, boring is very crucial, because if you are in the moment of boring, then your dopamine goes up. So sometimes, like, it's about to accept that we have negative feelings and be completely fine with that. So don't like check your Instagram or social media when you have a feel of and when you have those negative feelings, and try to like overcome them by focusing on what is important. So for me, it's always about to have a good plan of the day, like to have a to-do list and know what to focus, and then have the courage to get rid of all the noise around. So switching off notifications. It's important to find a calm place for work without any distractions and so on. So there are many strategies that are evidence-based on how you can truly boost your productivity, but at the end of the day, you have much more positive emotion. So that's what they call the expansive dopamine. Yeah? If you are focusing on what is important, if you do something meaningful, if you are using your strengths, and if you are improving your strengths, then you are much more fulfilled. So it's much better to have a courage to start a new project rather than to procrastinate. So that's why people that procrastinate less, they have lower risk of depression, lower risk of anxiety, and they experience much more positive emotions in the whole life, because they are able to sustain exercise, they are able to sustain some positive habits. So procrastination is a key skill for our mental health too.
Can we talk about meaning and purpose?
Yeah.
How can they help us overcome procrastination?
Well, that's the whole first chapter of my book. And the first chapter is about what is called intrinsic motivation. And it's about purpose at work, because the more we feel the purpose in activities that we want or that we should do, it's much easier to start, because lacking purpose is one of the main reasons why we procrastinate. Because if you lack purpose, well, it's difficult to push yourself to do something meaningless. So that's why we experience also growth of depression in Western world. And for example, my favorite story is that I lived 2 years in New York City, 3 blocks from Wall Street. And I had a lot of friends working in Wall Street, in those big banks, big corporations. And the problem is that Wall Street is a place of the highest level of depression and like highest level of intake of some pills, like pills for depression and so on. And those are the most successful people. They have the best universities, they often have a lot of money, but they did a few studies there. What is the reason of that high level of depression? And the outcome of those studies is that lacking purpose is the source of growth of depression in Western world. So the solution is truly to uncover your strengths and to ask yourself, like, okay, I have some unique strengths, so how can I use those strengths for doing something meaningful, to serve others, to help communities that I'm part of? So this is the long-term solution for procrastination, because if you love what you are doing, you don't procrastinate it. For example, for me, I love to deliver my keynotes. I love to do interviews. I love to do my own podcast. And I don't procrastinate those things because I truly love them. So uncovering strengths and finding purpose is a long-term solution for procrastination. So it's not about to have a better time management system. It's truly about the whole mindset and about how you are feeling about your work and how you feel the purpose there.
Hedonic adaptation is something we should talk about. What is it and what role does it play in helping us put things off that we should really be doing?
Yeah, because we live in the world that we are often focused on goals. Yeah, all companies, they have their KPIs, their goals, they know what they want to achieve. But the problem of goals is that if you are focusing on goals, then you don't enjoy the process, because well, the process is something that you don't like. For example, in my case, yeah, if I love what I'm doing, I achieve even more goals than people that are focusing on goals. Yeah? So the old saying that the path is the destination is truly to the point, because if you enjoy the process, you are much more often in what is called state of flow. So you are in the present moment, you enjoy the process, your serotonin and dopamine goes up, so you are much more creative, you are much better in terms of your focus, and you achieve much more. But those people that they are thinking about the future all the time, and if they are thinking about their goals, and then they don't enjoy the process, they are unable to get into the state of flow, so they procrastinate even more. So this is the let's say pitfall of focusing on goals, because the more you focus on goals, the less you enjoy the process. So and what is hedonic adaptation? Hedonic adaptation is the moment when you achieve the goal. So for example, you finish your university, or you buy a new car, or you build a big house that you was dreaming of the whole life. And the problem is that we are getting used to whatever goal very quickly. So, for example, there are some studies that even though if you finish your university, the average lifespan of your happiness is few hours, in some people a few days, but usually not more than 1 week. So even though you win a gold Olympic medal or if you get a Nobel Prize, still the lifespan of the happiness afterwards is around 1 week. So that's why we should not to focus on goals, because if you are focusing on goals, you can be addicted. I call those people like goal junkies. Truly, they are addicted on getting bigger and bigger goals, but they only experience short peaks of happiness when they reach the goal, but then they are empty again after 1 week. So I rather recommend people to only focus on path, only focus on process, and let's say in few percent, like in 5 to 10%, of course, it's important to have some vision of the future, but 90% of your time, you should enjoy the process, you should love what you are doing, you should improve your strengths, and you should build the meaning in those daily activities. And the outcome is that you achieve much more. So, and there's a brilliant quote from Albert Schweitzer, who got a Nobel Peace Prize in 1952. He said something like this: success is not key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. So the path is much more important than the destination. And 90% of your time, you should focus on path, and only a few percent of your time, you should think about the future.
So just to be clear, it's okay to have goals. It's just where you put your
Yes,
focus. You put your focus on
right.
the journey to get to your goals, but you don't
Yeah,
focus exclusively on the goals.
yeah. And I think there's a huge difference between to have a vision and to have only goals, because in my definition, vision is something for a long term. Yeah. So for example, if my vision or mission in life is to help as many people as possible to fight their procrastination, I can do it today, I can do it tomorrow, and I can do it in 10, 20 years. So that's the reason why vision is for a long term, because you cannot finish your vision because it's something almost infinite. But if you focus on goals, like if you're focusing on, I don't know, buying a new iPhone or build a new house, well, if you reach the goal, then you experience hedonic adaptation. But what even more, you experience emptiness inside because you don't know what to do next. So that's why I encourage people to focus on long-term projects with long-term meaning. So with your life vision or mission, you can do it forever. Yeah. So you can, for example, be a better husband, you can be a better father, you can be I don't know, a good member of society. And you can, every day, you can focus on small gradual changes to be better, and you then enjoy the process. So sometimes, of course, there are some goals. For example, I want to finish a new book. I'm writing a new book about purpose at work now. But for me, it's not about finishing the book. It's again about to help more people to have better lives with my ideas. So this is the difference between having just goals and having something higher, like having a meaningful mission.
What about our relationship with willpower when it comes to putting things off?
Of course, that's the second chapter of the book, because the most extensive meta-analysis about procrastination, it shows us that the main reason why we procrastinate is lack of what they call self-regulation. Basically, we are unable to regulate our emotions. So if you have a negative feeling about one task, it's much higher chance that you will procrastinate that task. And if you have a strong willpower, you can push yourself and you can start. But honestly speaking, who has strong willpower? Yeah, not many procrastinators, because it's just the exact opposite. So the strategy for fighting procrastination at the beginning is not to use your willpower, but it's to work smarter. For example, if you divide a huge task into smaller ones, well, then your negative emotion is it's well, it's much smaller, and you don't need that much willpower to push yourself. So I think that procrastination, it's not a time management issue, it's rather emotional management issue. So you should understand why you feel negative about that task and ask yourself like how to change the emotion about the task. And sometimes it's to divide the task, sometimes it's ask yourself like, is there anyone that I can work on that? So for example, if I procrastinate and postpone my gym, well, I have a great trainer, personal trainer, and she's amazing. So I'm looking forward to the gym because I have an amazing personal trainer. So you can hack the negative emotion with people that you can cooperate with. You can hack the negative emotion by increasing the sense of meaning of the task. And of course, like if you divide the task into smaller ones, then you have much lower or much smaller negative emotion at the beginning.
When it comes to willpower, though, do we have to be careful? Because is it not the case that we have a finite amount of willpower in any given day?
Well, it's connected with the dopamine in brain because we have one pool of dopamine. And if you waste your dopamine on social media, well, then you miss the dopamine for much more meaningful activities. So the main problem is not to waste your dopamine during mornings. So a lot of people, they wake up, they take their phones, and they spend like 30 minutes or even more with social media. And basically they drain their dopamine because now those algorithms are serving you things that they truly know that can truly trigger your dopamine. So I highly recommend people to not to use their cell phones like first, let's say 1 or 2 hours in the morning. And it's similar when we go to bed because sometimes we do what is called bedtime procrastination. We are postponing time going to bed. And we spend a lot of time on social media again. And again, we are excited. Those algorithms truly knows, they truly know what to serve us. So we can feel more anxious. We can experience some negative feelings when we are scrolling. And what is the best routine is not to use your phone like again 1 or 2 hours before bedtime. So if you don't use your phone at the beginning and if you don't use your phone at the end of the day, you have much more dopamine during the day. And with more dopamine, well, it's connected with your willpower because you have much more energy. You are better in terms of your motivation, focus, and everything. So this is the problem of 21st century because we are draining our brains on meaningless things. And basically, we then miss the energy for what is important.
Did I hear you talk before about the element of forgiveness? That if you are forgiving, that leads to less procrastination. And when I say
Yeah.
forgiveness, this is directed towards yourself.
Yeah. And in one beautiful study, they call that self-forgiveness. So if you fail and if you are unable to forgive yourself, if you take your failure and you overthink that and you get into those spirals of negative feelings, you procrastinate much more. So what is much better strategy is when you fail, of course, well, fail is nothing good, but the quicker you forgive yourself, the quicker you are able to start again. So if you fail, just tell yourself, okay, it happens, forgive yourself and ask yourself, so what should I do better for the next time? So of course, failure is part of the learning process, right? So failure, we can like rebrand in our brain what failure means. And if you are able to forgive, then you procrastinate less. So again, it's about emotion. So basically, some people, if they fail, they can truly they can truly destroy their self-esteem with those negative feelings, with regret. And the quicker you are in terms of self-forgiveness, the quicker you are in the ability to start again and be better.
Are we seeing, as a society, are we seeing more people procrastinate today because they are involved in working remotely in the digital space, in the virtual world, whereas in years gone past, we would have been making physical products? So is it easier
Right.
to procrastinate whenever you're not, whenever you don't have that physical product tangibly in your hand? You don't have the product of your labor to touch and to hold.
Right, yeah. And procrastination is connected with creativity. Like if you do something simple, for example, if you are in a, I don't know, in the Middle Ages, for example, it was not that complex, yeah. So your work was about something mechanical. So you are putting two things together all the time, and that was your work. But now people, they need to understand emotions, they need to be systematic, they need to be good in communication, they need to be good with technologies, and it's so many things that we need for our work. And at the end, we are overwhelmed. Yeah, we are overwhelmed by so many priorities, so many emails, and our brain is not used to that kind of complexity, because we have the same brains that people, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 years ago had. So, for example, my brain is the same brain as they had in ancient Greece. Brain didn't evolve that much in few thousand years. Those changes on the brain, you can notice them in tens or hundreds of thousands of years. So we have the same brain, but if you look around, we live in a very complex world. And sometimes we are overwhelmed by choices. And again, there is a beautiful description of this situation that is called decision paralysis. Yeah. Our ancestors, they thought that the more freedom, the more choices, well, freedom means happiness, right? So they thought that the more choices you have, the more happy you become. But that's not the case. Yes, sometimes if you do shopping and you are standing in front of my favorite example, in front of 50 same kinds of ketchups. Yeah, they are all red, all the same, but you have 50 choices and you are not happy that you can choose out of 50. No, you feel a little anxious that you are unable to choose. So we are overwhelmed by those decisions in all aspects of our lives. So if we are choosing our career, if we are choosing our life partner, if we are organizing our daily tasks, if we are thinking what email should we reply the first. So basically, we live in an era of being constantly overwhelmed. And that's the problem, because if you are overwhelmed again with negative emotions, and you procrastinate even more. So decision paralysis, sometimes I say, is a mother of procrastination. So complexity, the more the world is complex, the more we procrastinate.
You use a great analogy in the book, the elephant and the rider, to talk about discipline. Can you give us your
Yeah,
insights on this?
this is a beautiful old Buddhist metaphor. And basically, we can divide our brain into a few parts. And we have the ancient part of the brain that is called limbic system. It's about our emotions. So basically, your dog or your cat, it also has limbic system. But then we have a newer part of the brain that is called neocortex. And what is the most important part of that is what is called prefrontal cortex, this frontal part of the brain. And that's the main difference between us and other animals, other species, because the prefrontal cortex help us to think about our future. So basically, your dog overeats and then it feels dizzy. We also overeat, but we know that we will feel dizzy. So that's the main difference. So we can think about our future. So this part of the brain is the responsible one. This part of the brain knows that we want to exercise more, that we want to eat healthier, that we want to get up with first alarm clock and not to snooze. But the problem is that this is very like new part of the brain. This is few hundred thousand years old. But if there is a decision moment, well, then we have the old emotional brain that is much stronger. So that's why we procrastinate. And I love the allegory of elephant and the rider. The elephant is symbol of the limbic system of that emotional brain that is focused on a present moment. So emotions emotions don't understand the future. So your emotional brain wants to have instant gratification. But then we have a newer part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that is a rider on the elephant. And that's the symbol of our rationality, and that's the symbol of our, let's say, better self. So, and you can imagine you have elephant and the rider, and as the rider should know how to tame the elephant, how to push the elephant forward. So basically, he needs to know some tricks on how to cooperate with the elephant. So, and that's the same case of us. We are all elephants and riders. We are all emotions and rationality. And our rational brain should know some tricks how to overcome the emotional one. So, for example, that's the case of when you have a huge task, your elephant is threatened. Yeah? You have negative emotion, and then you procrastinate. But your rider, your rational brain, knows that if you divide the task into smaller ones, it's easier for your elephant to handle that. So this is the strategy of like helping yourself to understand your elephant and to find some strategies how to help the elephant to overcome those obstacles in life. So this is a beautiful allegory, because not just us, we have elephants and riders, but our life partners, they have elephants and riders. Our kids have elephants and riders. So if you look at the world with this allegory, then you understand people much more, because we are very emotional and we use our rational brain sometimes only for the rationalization at the end. So we decide, our decisions are based on our emotions, and we just use the logic and the rational brain to find the reasons, but only backwards.
Well, talking of strategies, you have a very interesting strategy when it comes to overcoming procrastination, and that is you're a fan of mind maps. And am I right in thinking that you actually used mind maps in order to help you write this book?
Exactly. Yeah. So I love mind maps for planning. So, for example, I call this method to do today. It's from the book. So you have visual mind map of your tasks, and it's much better for your brain than to have a list, because it's visual, and visual cortex is the most evolved part of the brain. So if the information is visual, it's much easier for our brain to see those connections and see those priorities. So, and I also love mind maps for creativity. So, for example, if I want to write a new book, I have a mind map for the whole structure, for whole chapters. And then for each chapter, I have another mind map. So, for example, I put one, let's say, a note about like, okay, I start with this story, then I mention this research, then I ask those questions, and I build the whole structure of the chapter visually. And then if I have the whole visual structure of the chapter, then I sit and write. So it's much easier for your brain to understand visual information. So, and it's much better than to have just simple text, because simple text is like 2D, and visual mind map is like 3D. So it has capacity of connections, and you can explain like complex systems better with a mind map rather than with a simple text.
You have an entire chapter on objectivity. How can being objective help us get things done?
Well, this is truly the core of the book, because when I was working on a book, I was about to write a book about critical thinking. So that was my intention. But then I realized that everyone thinks that he or she already has critical thinking. So because we have what is called blind spot bias, we all think that we are more rational than others. We think that we are better drivers than others. We think that we are better parents than others. So basically, we are unable to see our biases and our flaws. So I wrote a book about procrastination, but I put there the chapter about objectivity and about critical thinking to help people to realize that sometimes we are very good in tricking ourselves. So there's a beautiful study that the outcome of the study is that people that procrastinate the most are very intelligent and very creative. And why? Because if you are smart and creative, you use your brain against yourself. So you are much better in coming up with excuses in front of yourself. So that's why if you want to fight procrastination, you need to understand your biases, your cognitive biases, and you need to boost your critical thinking too, because you have to beware of your brain, because your brain sometimes is against you. Because of course you can come up with a reason why not to start running today, or why to postpone this task for tomorrow. Yeah, you can always find reasons why to procrastinate. But if you are better in terms of critical thinking, if you boost your rationality, if you are better in understanding your own cognitive biases, then you see the whole world in a clearer way, and it's easier for you to overcome those biases and at the end of the day, overcome your procrastination. So critical thinking is crucial for fighting procrastination.
It's amazing how often it all comes back to self-awareness, and the self-awareness feeds into your being
Right.
objective about something.
Mm.
Again and again, it's a theme that comes back on this podcast over and over again, unintentionally so, but
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing how it's always at the heart of everything, being self-aware, and as you say there, being objective, and being a critical thinker, and being able to look at yourself and see what your behavior is and your thought process and your biases are.
Yeah, and I think that in the core of all of this is humbleness. Yeah, humbleness is a key virtue, because if you think that you already know everything, if you think that you are the smartest guy in the room, well, you have a problem. So humbleness is about to admit that we don't know everything. It's about to admit that you are wrong, or it's about to admit that there are things that we don't know as the whole society. So humbleness is source of critical thinking. And I think that we should ask ourselves how we can like teach humbleness at schools, or yeah, how to help people to be more humble, because I think that it's always the problem of politics. It's always a problem of toxic leaders at workspace or in corporate world, that they are just not humble enough. They think that they know everything, and they often have black or white answers. So I think that humbleness is the solution of many problems that we all have, the whole mankind and the whole societies all around the world.
Well, Peter, you're definitely a pretty smart guy. I think you have the human condition pretty well figured out, because I know your book, The End of Procrastination, has been translated into 21 languages and sold all over the world. So that's quite the achievement. So I have to congratulate you on that. It's a terrific book, and it's a very engaging read, and certainly it'll motivate people out there if they're finding difficulty finding meaning in what they're doing, and helping them along the way to achieve those goals, but in doing so, along the way, falling in love with that process that you spoke about.
Well, now I feel very honored, and thank you so much for the whole interview. I really appreciate it.